Am I the a-hole for telling my mother she is the reason why I don't want a relationship with my siblings? I, 30 male, have 3 younger half-siblings through my mom. Because my mom had primary custody, I grew up with them and I was miserable because my mom has the siblings always share mentality and I would be punished if I didn't want to. This was mainly an issue because only 2 of us have the same father, and whenever each of dads gave us something and the others wanted it, we would be expected to share. And because my dad was the most active in being a parent and had more money, my siblings always went after my stuff, sometimes without even asking, and I could never do anything about it without getting punished. There were times I didn't even get to play or use the things that my dad gave me because it wasn't my turn, and if my siblings broke or damaged it, my mom would shrug it off because things happen, and to just tell my dad to buy me a new one. This made me so angry, because not only did I feel like I could never have anything nice for myself, but my dad couldn't always afford to get me a replacement. He had more money than the other dads, but he wasn't rich. I remember being my happiest when I was with my dad and wanted to stay, but because he lived in another state and had a crazy work schedule, I could only be with him in the summers. Not only that, but I was made to feel bad if I ever voiced my displeasure living with my mom, because she was a single mom trying her best, and I was always provided for and never physically harmed, so I should just be grateful. It wasn't until I was 16 that my dad became fully established enough in his career that he was able to have a more flexible schedule, and was even able to move closer to me. He said that I was now at an age where I could decide, and said that he would welcome me with open arms. So when I went to visit him during a long weekend, I just never went back. It wasn't necessarily planned and my mom was upset, but I just didn't want to go back and my dad didn't make me. After that, I've been in low contact with my maternal side, only really seeing them on Thanksgiving, and for years, they swore my dad turned me against them. One day, my mom was complaining about how low down my father was, and something in me broke. I told her that my dad may not have been perfect, but he was the better parent because he respected my autonomy, and that it was her fault I didn't care about having a relationship with her other kids, while I'm close to my older sister through my dad. Now I'm getting chewed out. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. A woman who failed to ensure her kids respected each other's boundaries is complaining that the kid who was regularly on the losing end has set up a boundary? It's not surprising. Not the a-hole. This is so beautifully and eloquently put. I have nothing to add except my appreciation for the sentence. Not the a-hole. She attacked your father, a figure you respect, and you defended him and turned the attack on her. If she did not want her poor parenting brought up, she should not have attacked another parent. The funny thing is, in some divorces that have been bitter, the more bitter one, the one who happily badmouths the other will put a clause in the custody or divorce agreement that prevents their ex from saying a bad word about them to their kids. Not the a-hole. The thing is, when kids are forced to share, they usually start to resent the idea. But if kids are left to themselves, they usually end up just sharing what they have naturally. I don't remember my mom forcing me or my sister or brother to share their toys with me. We'd have a few toys that were ours, and we could play alone. But that usually got boring, so we'd find a sibling and they'd join in. My brother had a huge set of Lego, so when I brought that out, we'd all work together to build a town or some racetrack. We never had to share our bikes and had to ask the other sibling if a friend could use it. So I don't have big issues with sharing things if I left to my own devices. I was a nanny for several years and used the same method. And 9 out of 10 times the kids would start out playing alone, then end up playing together with most toys. Me and my brothers had limited time allowed to play video games. We all naturally gravitated towards multiplayer games because if I used my time to play with them and they used theirs to play with me, we wound up getting to play 3 times as long. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I won't be at her wedding? 18 months ago, my dad died, and then 9-ish months ago my mom and my uncle, Dad's brother, started dating each other. I, 17 female, will be 18 when they get married, and I decided pretty much from the start of their relationship that I wouldn't play a part in it. My older sisters both refuse to speak to our mom or uncle anymore, and they won't be going to the wedding either. But since I'm still technically a minor now, my mom thinks she can still make me go. She either doesn't remember that I will have already turned 18 when the wedding happens, or she just doesn't care. Either way, she keeps trying to engage with me on the wedding. Has cried over minded my sister's lack of involvement, and how she hates being punished for being happy. How dad would want this for her. My oldest sister told her dad would be disgusted that his own brother and wife were shacking up. Our dad find that kind of relationship weird, and we knew that for a long time. He was a vocal commenter when watching a movie or TV series. I think it's both knowing that my dad would hate it, knowing my mom has admitted to have feelings for my uncle when she was married to my dad, and the fact it has happened so fast that just makes it feel so disrespectful. I suspect my uncle had feelings for my mom long before this too, but he would never confirm that. So anyway, mom was bringing it up, and 3 nights ago I was like, screw this. She gets to hear again that I won't be there, and I would never be there. It turned into a fight, and she told me that she deserves better. My grandparents got involved because my mom told them about it, and they said I am a disrespectful little ungrateful brat. That mom deserves happiness, and no matter how less time it took, my dad is dead, and his memory is not more important than the wants/needs/feelings of the living. Am I the a-hole? Not an a-hole. Buy the happy couple a copy of Hamlet and ask them if they're sure they want you involved. To be at the wedding or not to be at the wedding? That is the question. And the answer is no. Buzz off. Not an a-hole. The ick factor is high here. Were they having a relationship behind your dad's back? Not your circus, not your monkeys. Go have a lovely day out with your sisters on their big day. It definitely sounds like it, and the last sentence feels very much like the grandparents knew and felt she would be happier with your uncle rather than your dad. His memory is not more important than the wants/needs/feelings of the living. How about the wants/needs/feelings of their very much living grandchildren? I really hate your grandparents just reading this. You are grieving the loss of your father, and they're insulting you for perfectly understandable feelings. What horrid people they must be to not see or care about your pain. Your mother is entitled to find love and happiness again, yes. You and your sisters are equally entitled to have complicated feelings, need more time, and be flat out angry about the particular way your mom has moved forward with her life. Not to mention be upset that your mom is trying to bully and guilt you into suppressing your own emotions. Are your sisters in a position where you could move in with them? Or any other sane relatives? I think you need a plan for leaving your mom's house. Not stay home. Not stay home. Can you live with your sisters? I wish. In a couple of months, I would probably pack up and move to my oldest sisters. I want to wait until mom can't do much about it though, since my sister is a recent college graduate and she doesn't need my mom hauling her to court over custody matters. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for getting upset and asking my mom to pick me up? This happened last Friday night when I, 14 female, went to my dad's for visitation. My dad lives with his wife and my stepbrother who is my age, and my half-brother. We each have our own bedrooms, but I have learned that I can't really keep anything over there because it just disappears. Even hygiene products or extra pair of underwear disappear. I don't know what happens to them, and no one ever seems to know, but they get mad when I get mad that stuff I take is gone. I hate going over there because their house is always freezing cold. Even in the summer, my dad has the AC cranked. I told my mom this a few weeks ago, and she gave me an extra blanket to put on my bed at my dad's, and I hid it in my overnight bag. She just told me to make my bed there like normal, and no one would even notice it was on there, and it wouldn't be bothered. Last Friday night, I got to my dad's, and when it was time to go to bed, the blanket was gone. I asked where it went, and my dad said my stepbrother was cold a few nights before, and took it off my bed to give to him. I was so mad. I said that I'm tired of never feeling like I am at home there because I can't have anything that belongs to me. My dad said, "You are a selfish brat, and in this family, we share." But he went and got the blanket from my stepbrother's room, and it was really gross. Like body fluids gross. I'm not stupid. I know it was on there. I was even more mad, and my dad just said to wash it and get over it. But it was like 11 p.m., and I had a soccer tournament the next morning early, so I didn't want to stay up and wash it, or lay awake shivering all night. My dad and stepmom went to bed, so I called my mom, told her what happened, and she picked me up. My dad didn't even notice I was gone until 2 the next afternoon, when he called yelling at me for leaving because he needed a babysitter for my baby half-brother. I told this to my friends, and half thinks I am the a-hole for leaving and getting mad over a blanket, while the other half thinks I'm not the a-hole. For what it's worth, I did leave a note. My dad didn't read it, and the visitation is not a formal legal agreement. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You should be able to expect a reasonable amount of privacy at your dad's. No wonder you don't like going over there if you can't have a basic level of respect. If your dad was so concerned about your stepbrother, you should have given him a blanket off his bed. That is what parents do, especially if kids are cold because of their decision to keep the AC up. Your dad owes you an apology, and a lock on your door which only you have the key to. Especially if you can't even keep underwear over there without them going missing. As a mom, I don't even want to imagine WTF is happening to them. Yeah, the underwear part really bothers me as well. To me, it says run away screaming. Not today home. The whole post was a clear not today home, because you should be able to feel welcome at your home, and that right was taken away by your possessions being stolen. Your dad was being a nahal by claiming in this family we share, which is obviously a one-sided concept. And to top it all off, he admits that he was going to force you to babysit, displaying his true ulterior motives. Glad you're back with your mom now. The reason why the visitation is informal in the first place is because he hasn't really been very involved in my life until he remarried, and his wife wants a big happy family, and wants a babysitter. Up until a year ago, I was mostly spending every other weekend with his parents who actually do want to spend time with me. Not stay home. Your underwear goes missing and your stepbrother whacked off into your blanket? That's creepy. And when you complain about it, you are the problem. Something is not right in that house. Don't leave anything there ever. And I wouldn't want you to be alone with a stepbrother, frankly. That your dad sees no problem here is also a problem. You are not a a-hole. I avoid my stepbrother at all costs. Him and his friend accidentally walked in on me showering one day, and I know I locked the bathroom door because it makes my skin crawl. But when I went to my dad and stepmom about it, they got mad at me for calling my stepbrother a perv, and said I must not have locked the door, and it's natural to be curious anyway. But it clearly wasn't an accident if he pulled back the curtain, so they try to frame it as a prank. Okay, sure. Really funny. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my stepson out to his mother's? My first husband died when my biological son, 14 male Chris, was 7. I kept a box of precious mementos including his class ring that I gave to Chris. It means a lot to him, and he always wears it on a necklace, only taking it off at night to sleep. I eventually remarried when Chris was 10 to his stepdad, Martin, and gained a brother, Torin, 16 male. Martin has joint custody with his ex, but Torin spent more time with us after the marriage. Now, me and Torin don't have the best relationship. Try as I might, he's never taken to me and has never liked me, and has told me to my face that I can't replace his mom, and sometimes he's rude to me. Things aren't that great between him and Chris either, as they are always arguing and Torin likes to pick on Chris. There's also been a few times Torin was supposed to make sure Chris got home from football practice, but instead forgot and left Chris stranded without telling anyone, and he's been forced to walk home a few times because of it. Luckily we don't live too far from the school, but it's still almost an hour-and-a-half walk. A lot of times Martin lets these things slide and tells me it's just a normal brother's thing, or that Torin is still getting used to me, and I usually leave it alone, until recently. In the last week, Chris lost his dad's ring. We looked for it everywhere and couldn't find it. Chris has been in literal tears since he lost it. Today after school, Torin and his boyfriend were hanging out outside and it was getting late. So I went outside to tell him it was time for his boyfriend to go home. Torin looked shocked when I came outside, and I immediately noticed why, because Torin's boyfriend was wearing my late husband's ring. Torin has apparently stolen it and given it to his boyfriend. When I confronted them, his boyfriend didn't even know it wasn't Torin's, and Torin had told him it was his dad's. Pissed, I couldn't deal with this any longer, and since his dad wasn't home to deal with him, Martin's away on a business trip. I told him to pack his things and I dropped him off at his mom's house. His dad called an hour ago saying I was being too hard on him, and his mom thinks I'm overstepping and doing more than necessary. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I don't think this is an overreaction at all. His almost adult son has told you that he doesn't look at you as a stepmother or authority figure. You took him to someone who he does see that way. Please tell me you got the ring back. I don't think you went far enough. I would have gotten the police involved. P.S. Please keep that box of precious mementos secure in a safety deposit box or something, in case Torin decides to retaliate. I think it's better son has a lockbox/safe in his own room so he doesn't feel it's not his home, if that makes sense. Not being able to keep his father's things with him might make him start thinking about when he gets his own place/stop thinking of where he is as a homely place he can relax. Obviously, living with someone who's bullying him is already a problem, and having to lock valuables away won't help, but at least he'll have them near him and be able to look whenever. Not stay home. He stole your son's ring knowing it was important and gave it away to someone else. He is the a-hole. You didn't mistreat him, but sent him to his mother's place. It's not a harsh punishment at all to remove him so he doesn't bully your son. You have a right to hold him accountable as his guardian of the moment. If you are not his guardian, then you were also right to send him to his mom. You have more problems than his stealing and behavior if your husband doesn't think anything wrong happened, or that there shouldn't be any serious consequences for disrespecting his stepbrother. He doesn't respect or care about your son. Absolutely not the a-hole, but your husband is the a-hole for not stepping up and letting it get to this point. Your son should be just as much as his now, and him having to walk an hour and a half because his stepson forgot? Unacceptable. Should have had a very serious talk with him about responsibility then. Now he's stealing from his brother, prized possessions no less, causing him great distress and thinks it's okay to give them away? A line's been crossed, and right now your son needs you to be his advocate because who knows what else he's been putting up with from him, especially at school away from supervision. Even if it means pushing back against your husband. Really feel for the kid. Edit. Both his mom and dad think you're overreacting after he desecrated your late husband's belongings? Shows exactly where he's getting it from. Wouldn't move an inch on this until there's an apology and some serious changes. Otherwise, you've got bigger problems looming.
Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out of my house? For telling my husband he's so lucky to be rich? My husband lost both of his parents when he was 17. Their deaths were preventable, and others died alongside them. Because of this, a lawsuit followed, and at a young age my husband found himself orphaned but wealthy. But I think we can all understand that this money wasn't some great thing that he celebrated because it came at a huge loss for him, his parents. We met a few years after he was awarded the money, and we got married after dating for 4 years. We're now the proud parents of our 3 kids, and we have a stable life. We're very comfortable, and few people know exactly how much my husband actually has. He's very smart with his money and not only invests, but plans for our future and the future of each of our children. We both still work very hard, but the money means we are also very fortunate. My family, parents and sister, is aware that my husband's parents are dead. They also know about the lawsuit and that money was paid to the family members. They have no idea how much my husband has. Not my parents, and definitely not my sister. But they know and were told how he'd give it all away to have his parents back. Which is why I reacted strongly when my sister made the comment she did. We had my family over for dinner. My sister mentioned wanting to bring her boyfriend for any future dinners, and everyone was talking about that. Then my sister mentioned wanting to go away with her boyfriend for the weekend and how they were saving up to go. She said it was a big step because they were also talking about moving in together. My husband mentioned we had gone to the place they were talking about going to and that they'd have a great time. She said she hoped so, but that she wouldn't have the same kind of money he does. He told her we did nothing fancy there, which is 100% true. My parents wanted to know when they were thinking of moving in together. Things were going fine. Then my sister, out of nowhere, said to my husband that the least he could do was offer them the money for the weekend away, since he could afford it. I shut her down and said she wasn't entitled to other people paying for her trips with her boyfriend. My sister responded that he could afford to send them for a month if he wanted to. My husband told her that was a big ask, and she snapped at him and said he had no idea how lucky he was to be rich, because she'd give anything to have that kind of money. The insensitivity of the comment enraged me, and I told my sister she needed to leave. I made sure to get her butt out that door too, because I wasn't tolerating that BS. My sister has told me almost every day since that I overreacted, and that throwing her out was over the top. I told her I don't want to hear anything but a sincere apology from her to my husband. And until that point, she can stay out of my house. My husband said I didn't need to stand by that, and that he didn't want to come between us. I told him he wasn't coming between us, she was. Am I the a-hole for my actions, and am I being too harsh here? I just think that comment is downright cruel and vicious, when you consider my husband had to be orphaned to get that money. Now for the top comments. Absolutely not the a-hole. Your sister is basically having a death wish for your parents for that kind of money. Despicable. Agree, she is only thinking about money the moment she said give anything for that money. Not the a-hole. Must be nice being rich. Must be nice having loving parents that care about you and are there for you. Not if those parents can't fund your month-long vacation with a boyfriend you haven't even moved in with yet. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my stepsister my half of her mother's life insurance? I'm posting this for my husband. So, my husband, 47 male, had a stepmom who was 81 and just recently passed at the beginning of March. His father, to whom she was married, passed away when my husband was 19. He died of cancer and knew it was coming, so he revised a will for his then wife and only child, my husband. The will was a little unusual. It stated that the home my husband's father owned would belong to both my husband and his current wife. However, his wife would be allowed to be the sole resident until she passed or decided to move out. Then the sole ownership would go to my husband. His wife was not allowed to will the home to her children or relatives. I'm not sure the term for this. It's like she owned it, but didn't fully own it. The reason behind this was that my husband's father was rather vindictive. He didn't care for his ex-wife very much, my husband's mother, and he didn't like his own stepkids either. So in the chance he passed while my husband was still under the age of 18, his ex-wife would have no sway over his son or the house, seeing as his current wife would have it, and her kids would never have it, as when she passed, it would go to my husband. When his father passed, his stepmother gathered a few of his things up in garbage bags and left them on the porch of his dad's house for him, and wouldn't let him inside. She also wouldn't let him have his TV, his pictures, his video games, or his childhood toys. He's sure those went to her grandkids. He said that was the last time she spoke to him, and her last words to him were, "The TV stays." So that was 28 years ago. Now to today. His stepmother died. Her daughter, 60s female, tried, unsuccessfully, to get half the house. She has no claim, according to the lawyers she spoke to. So there's now a little bad blood between her and my husband, but he's trying to remain amicable. Her mother just passed, and while he didn't like her, it was still her mother. However, we were contacted by his late stepmother's insurance company. Because she didn't name a beneficiary on the policy, my husband is entitled to half the payout. We don't know how much it is yet. His stepsister is furious and thinks it's unfair. She wants my husband to collect his half and give it to her. He is torn. He knows his stepmother kept all of his father's life insurance, even though she was trusted to give some to him. She kept most of his belongings and kept him out of his father's home. So he's bitter. Legally, the money is his, but he feels like morally it might not be. His stepmother hated him, and she would have never named him on her policy. Would he be the a-hole if he kept the money? Morally and legally, the money is his. Keep the money and just block the stepsister. Not the a-hole. Yep, this. Screw her. She tried to take the house from him, so she is shown she would take it all if she could. So the stepmother got to live in a house that wasn't really hers for 28 years. She kept all of the contents, other than what she wanted rid of, the life insurance, and shut the son, OP's husband, out for nearly 3 decades. Assuming the stepsister was also a non-entity in his life based on the post. So it's time to remove the emotion from it. Be cold. This is what the black and white of it is. House is owned by OP's husband. Half the life insurance is owned by OP's husband. You can say plead, beg, threaten, whatever, but that's the plain and simple truth. In a case like this, you need to remove the emotion and just go with what's on paper, then move on. Sometimes that can be morally ambiguous, but not this time. There is no ambiguity in this at all. Take the house, take the money, move on. Not the a-hole. We haven't heard from stepsister until recently, when her mother started actively dying. She started reaching out then about plans for the house, which my husband doesn't have any plans yet. The emotions are raw, and he's hoping some of his old photos are in the house. He wants to be able to go through his father's things if any are left, and then decide what to do. She was pushing him to sell and split the money with her immediately. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my sister-in-law if she wanted to unalive my son just to prove she could get him to not have an allergic reaction in a specific restaurant? I, 33 male, am a stay-at-home dad. My wife and I have 3 children, Cal 7, Tilly 4, and Ro 18 months. Cal is close in age to 2 of his cousins, aka sister-in-law's kids. One is in the same grade and class at school as him, and the other is just a year older. Sister-in-law typically takes her kids out to eat after school on Fridays, and also takes them window shopping and to an arcade. My wife and I let him go one time, and at the time sister-in-law said she didn't really know where they'd go to eat. We asked her to avoid a specific restaurant for Cal's sake. He has nut allergies and experiences different levels of reactions depending on his proximity to nuts. This particular restaurant uses nuts in basically everything and uses a lot of nut oils while cooking. We went there as a family a little over a year ago after being told they took allergies very seriously and had substitutions and very good standards for keeping allergens away from meals when needed. But the exposure while we were there still caused a reaction, and we left without eating because it wasn't worth it. We explained this to her, but she still took them there and said she was extra careful. Cal still ended up being sick while there as a result of the allergy. It wasn't anaphylaxis, but it angered both my wife and me. Sister-in-law apologized and said she truly didn't see it as a big issue. My wife told her sister we had already explained we'd gone there and he had a reaction. Sister-in-law said she figured she could take extra precautions, and my wife told her she should have accepted that we didn't want him there and found somewhere else, or not taken him at all. Turns out sister-in-law and her kids always go to this restaurant. They know it'll happen, even though she asks about 4 or 5 other places nearby. Which is why I don't want my son to join them on Fridays for their outings. Sister-in-law told me she wants to start taking Cal again, and her kids would love it, and since they're all so close in age, it makes sense. I told her I couldn't allow it, because I know where she takes them to eat, and it's not safe for Cal. Sister-in-law argued that they could end up somewhere else, and that she learned her lesson. I asked if that meant 100% she wouldn't go to that restaurant or order food from there. She said she didn't have to. I told her that wasn't a definitive confirmation that she'd avoid it. She talked to my wife about it, and my wife agreed with me. Sister-in-law said we're denying the kids precious cousin time, and that Cal would be well taken care of. We said the safety of our son is number 1. Sister-in-law said I didn't give her a second chance to prove she had learned. And I told her she thought she had learned how to avoid it last time too. I said we don't have a lot of rules for taking our kids, but the health and safety aspect is something I won't ignore. I told her she could have always taken him for the window shopping and arcade and dropped him home if she wanted time. She said she would feel like a monster leaving him out of the meal and that she could figure out a way to make everyone safe and happy. I told her I didn't trust her to avoid that place, and she wasn't winning my trust on that with anything. I asked her if she wanted to kill Cal just to prove she could take him there without a reaction, while we can't. She called me a bastard and said I was making it sound significantly worse than it is, that all she wanted was to include him, and she was willing to find a way. She said I was basically calling her an evil monster and it wasn't fair. She tried to complain to my wife about what I said, but my wife backed me up and told her she wasn't reassuring us well, and she had the same concerns. Sister-in-law complained to her husband next, and he told me I went too far, and that saying she wanted to kill Cal was unfair. Maybe it was, but since she ignored the concerns we had and the past 2 incidents at the restaurant, I can't stop wondering how seriously she's taking this. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Am I missing something? After the first mistake, all she had to do was categorically promise you that she would not take your son to that restaurant again or order food there. Instead, she gave a non-committal answer and no reassurance for you. This is on her. You are not the a-hole. She is, though. Sounds like she's one of those people who don't believe allergies are serious. Sadly, there's a lot of them out there who just assume, it's just a rash. It won't kill you. I am also allergic to nuts, especially peanuts. When I was very young, like a teenager, my older sister, who knew I was allergic to nuts, cooked our fish in peanut oil. I had a severe reaction and had to be hospitalized overnight. Her excuse for using peanut oil was that she didn't think cooking in peanut oil was the same as eating peanuts or peanut butter. The truth is, she never believed I was allergic and was always trying to sneak peanuts into anything I ate. Now she overdoes it. At potlucks, she will make a sarcastic attempt to be mean by saying, "Any nuts? Any nuts? You know X can't eat nuts. No oil either." I know she's being mean because she's a person who never got over me going to the hospital. People who don't believe in allergies are a danger to those of us who have severe reactions. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to speak to my ex-fiancé before he died? Alright, I, 31 female, dated my ex Nico, 33 male, for 5 years, from 18 to 23. We were engaged, living together, and planning our future. I was pregnant, and I thought we had a great relationship. We sometimes had our ups and downs, but I never saw what happened coming. Basically, I discovered he was cheating on me a month before the wedding. He cheated on me with one of my closest friends, and some of my friends knew and didn't tell me. One finally broke down and decided to tell me everything. Needless to say, I was not only devastated, but angry and confused. I couldn't manage to understand the situation, and I was so overwhelmed because I didn't know how to even begin to deal with it. But I understood that the healthiest choice for me was to just disappear and start over somewhere else. And that's what I did. I blocked him and the friends who knew and didn't tell me, even the one who had told me, because she had kept it from me for over 2 months, and I didn't trust her. I deleted my social media, changed my number, and canceled all the wedding stuff behind his back. I also took all our money from our savings account and sold the ring. All the stress caused me to have a miscarriage, and no one knew about this because I had gone back to my hometown and was staying at a hotel. I literally didn't tell anyone I was leaving, but I did tell one of my former friends that he should tell Nico I had a miscarriage. I have no family, and back then, I knew I couldn't trust the people I called friends, so I chose to just keep everything to myself. I spent over a year traveling around Europe and Asia, and I finally settled in Ireland since I have nationality there thanks to my dad. I'm from South America, to clarify. I still had money thanks to my inheritance, and I bought a small apartment for myself and started working. I surrounded myself with some good new friends, started therapy, and I had multiple casual relationships. But it wasn't until I met Alex, 31 male, who's also from my country, that I fell in love again. I met him when I was 27, and it took me a while to trust him, but we eventually got serious. We got married last year, and early this year we moved back to our country. So, I started using social media eventually. My former friends and ex hadn't found out about it at first, but one of them eventually did. And they started sending me thousands of texts, especially my ex, who kept asking for us to have a simple talk, saying he still loved me, that he regretted everything, and hadn't been able to move on. This happened 3 years ago, and I chose to send one text to my ex telling him that I didn't hate him or resent him, but that he was just a part of my past, and as he knew, for me the past needs to stay buried. I once wanted to be with him for the rest of my life, but now I'm aware that he was not who I thought he was. And although our relationship taught me that people are not always who they seem to be, and I shouldn't trust people so easily, I see now that I wasted many years of my youth with him, and that's just it. I told him I was in love with someone else and not to try to talk to me again because he would never see my face in person again. And that was the end of it. After that, I blocked them all and put my account on private. Now, back to the present. I reconnected with one of my friends from the past, Melissa. She didn't know about the affair and had lost contact with our former group of friends because she didn't trust them due to what they did to me. She told me she had tried to contact me but had no idea how to do it. Although she's not friends with everyone else from before, she's still friends with one of Nico's cousins, who was never close with him but had always been pretty sad. From her, she found out that Nico was sick with cancer and wanted to speak to me. She told me that, according to Nico's cousin, he had no chance of making it, and he just wanted to speak to me. Melissa told me to do whatever felt right, and so did my husband, and I agreed. I decided not to speak to him and just told Melissa she should tell Nico's cousin that I didn't want to speak to Nico. My reason is simple. I put everything in the past. I healed from that situation. It was hard, but I did. I don't need closure, and I know I don't owe him anything. I have no feelings toward him. So, I recently found out from Melissa that Nico passed away. Now, his family is furious at me. They can't get to my social media accounts, but they got to my husband's. They told him that I was just a bitter witch who couldn't even grant the wish of a dying man to just speak to me. That's all he wanted. Alex just blocked all those accounts and put his account on private for a while and told me not to let them get to me, that I did nothing wrong. Although I truly didn't wish to speak with Nico, didn't have anything to say to him, and didn't want to hear anything from him either, I've begun to wonder if I should have just listened to what he had to say, just so that he would go without holding anything in. But I don't know if I truly believe that, or if I've just let the creeps from his family get to me. I don't know. Am I the a-hole? How is it that Melissa didn't know about the affair, but she somehow knew that your friends all knew about the affair and didn't tell you? Melissa cut them off after it was all discovered. I assume that after I was gone, they had to explain why I had disappeared. Not the a-hole. You already put the past behind of you. You moved on, and you didn't owe him anything.